So folks, I want you to hear this story of this man who just did an interview. He's a former, I want to say, a political prisoner in China. And during the interview, he tells the interviewer that U.S. is an authoritative. This story is this on what Cernovich? Okay, it's on Cernovich's account. Let me see if I can pull this off.
You just go to Twitter. It'll be right there.
Cernovich. If you don't have it, I'll try to get it from here. I'll go to his media. Here we go. All right.
Your book. You were describing the directives of Mao Zedong during the Cultural
Just press the video.
Revolution
Yeah.
that would be distributed publicly every night. And then you write, this is your quote, they served a function similar to Donald Trump's late night tweets while in office. They were the direct communication of a leader's thoughts to his devoted followers, enhancing the sanctity of his authority. So, do you see Donald Trump as an authoritarian?
I don't, if you're authoritarian, you have to have a system in supporting you.
Crazy.
You cannot just be an authoritarian by yourself. But certainly in United States, with today's condition, you can easily have an authoritarian. In many ways, you're already in the authoritarian state. You just don't know it.
How so?
Many things happens today in U.S. can be compared to Cultural Revolution in China.
Like what?
Like people trying to be unified in certain political correctness. That is very dangerous.
Interesting how he says Trump is not an authoritative because you need a supportive system, like meeting the media to support you, what you have to say, other political people. Maybe you can go out there and do what Xi is doing. Do you agree with his sentiment, the fact that U.S. is an authoritative state?
I think we're on the cusp of it. I think we see a lot of things going on, vaccine mandates and other things. I think in many ways we're on the cusp.
And Danielle, what do you think?
I think that this entire post-pandemic era has made a lot of people who we were talking about, the 7.8 million gap that's not in the labor force anymore. I think that this whole experience has made a lot of Americans sheep to where they're not thinking for themselves. And that in those types of environments, it's very easy for an authoritarian state to come in and move in because people have been thought to not think for themselves. And if people aren't thinking for themselves, then by definition, you're on a very slippery slope to being able to control their thinking, control their actions.
Yeah. Let me think. Phrase
I think they
is
call it
coming
brainwashing.
to mind.
Brainwashing.
A phrase is coming to mind decades ago. Useful idiots.
Do you know what Trump just said? Trump just said earlier today, he says hospitalizations rising among fully vaccinated in the U.S. Would you agree with him saying that? He's saying hospitalization rising amongst fully vaccinated in the U.S. Do you think he's just saying that because it's a marketing thing or no?
I think there's statistics
What do you
out there.
think?
No. I'm going to jump in here. I was sitting by a doctor in the plane yesterday. I don't normally talk to people on planes, but there I was talking to this doctor, and he has seen a rise in breakthrough cases, but they're in and out in a few days.
Okay, so you want to pull that up on who really said that? Because it wasn't Trump that said that. You know who said that? Here's who said that yesterday. His name is Dr. Anthony Fauci is who said hospitalization is increasing for people who have taken the vaccine. Okay?
Yeah, because now we're on the booster thing, right?
No,
Pat?
not that one. This was November 17th. So whatever November 17th. It's the one I texted you, buddy.
It says right there 3 days ago, CNBC.
No, it's the one from yesterday. Okay, there you go, 16 hours ago. Hospitalization rising amongst fully vaccinated in U.S., Fauci says. What we're starting to see now is an uptick in hospitalizations amongst people who've been vaccinated but not boosted. So what is this now? Now this next phase is got to get you boosted. See, I know you got the vaccine, but we got to get you boosted. And another one, and another one. As cases of COVID-19 rise throughout the U.S., health officials warned that an increasing number of fully vaccinated people are being hospitalized or going into emergency rooms. The concern about the wanting immunity against COVID infection comes from the FDA is expected to authorize a Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine booster shot for all adults 18 and older. What we're starting to see now is an uptick in hospitalizations amongst people who are fully vaccinated but not boosted. And it's a significant proportion, but not the majority by any means. So, look, the part that I think frustrates people the most is gaslighting at the highest level, propagandas at the highest level, force at the highest level. We used to be able to choose. Today, you are forced to do things you don't want to do. You sit with somebody and somebody tells you, makes a case on why you ought to get vaccinated, you go get vaccinated. Somebody makes a case to you why maybe you don't need to get vaccinated, you get canceled. People are starting to get a little worried about whether they can speak up or not. Now, so this guy, when he's talking about authoritative and what to do, the only side that can probably pull off an authoritative type of an environment is not the right. And the reason why I say this, let me explain why I say it. So when you hear Rogan talk about, I think Rogan was with who yesterday or 2 days ago? Was himself, Alex Jones, Tyler. Who were they with? Were they with Tim Cast, or I don't know who they were with. They were with somebody's podcast 2 days ago. Were you aware of who it was, or you weren't following it? Yeah.
I didn't catch it.
And he was making a point, the fact that you just can't have an opposing idea today. When you can't have an opposing idea, but on one side, whatever you say, the media is going to come and back you up and you can't get canceled, that's a form of authoritative. The media, mainstream media, essentially becomes the authoritative's tool to say whatever they want to say and get away with it. Fauci foresees full vaccination, including booster shots. This is September 3rd. Yeah, we're seeing that all over the place. Anyways, there's a reason why people are concerned today, and this guy's making a point. Do you agree with what he had to say?
About booster shots or what?
No, about authoritative.
About about the Chinese guy.
Chinese
So look,
guy.
I don't think so, and I'll tell you why. There's something that we've come to find out in America is something called the pendulum effect. Every 4 to 8 years, the country swings a little bit to the left or it swings a little bit to the right. The reason that we went from George W. Bush to the right to Obama 8 years later, Obama to Trump, is because they thought that he went too far left. The reason that we went to Biden is we thought that Trump went too far right. So the reason that I think the Democrats are going to get shellacked in the midterms is because they think that the country under Biden, under a House and under a split Senate where Kamala has the deciding vote, that the country is going too far left, as Danielle so poignantly explained in her beautiful bar graph. That was an amazing bar graph. So our country figures it out every 4 to 8 years. The hyperbolic talk doesn't get us anywhere. Follow the facts. You're a numbers guy. Every 4 to 8 years, the country says, I don't like the way the direction we're going with Trump. Let's give Biden a shot. Biden's kind of falling asleep at the wheel. Let's give someone else a shot. It's the same old story that we've come to learn.
All right. Answer.
Here's where you say, I agree with you, Adam. Go ahead.
Because that's going to happen. Answer this question. Answer this question.
Go ahead.
As the pendulum has swung back and forth, as you so eloquently describe, has wealth inequality in this country gotten wider or gotten narrower?
Wealth inequality has gotten wider. You're correct.
Okay, so that's going on in the background. Does wealth inequality create the situation for social unrest?
It always does.
Okay, so it's continued to build in the background, regardless of where your pendulum is.
Yes.
That's problematic.
What's your point?
When people are desperate,
Yeah.
and increasing numbers of Americans are desperate like they would be in a third world, there's no developed country in the world that has a wealth inequality like we do. Mm-hmm. You've got to go to like Pakistan. I mean, there's no developed country in the world. So if people are desperate, they'll do something. And it doesn't matter what side they're on or not. The wealth inequality in and of itself makes the country vulnerable to becoming authoritarian. People will be willing to listen to somebody who says, rise up against the elite. Why do you think Donald Trump won? Because he was going to drain the swamp. And why do you think that resonated with so many hardworking Americans?
Yeah.
Because they feel like they've been left behind.
And why do you think he did not get elected the second time around? It's because he got a swamp. He was the biggest swamp monster of them all.
Right. So he didn't drain the swamp, but he hit a nerve.
Mm-hmm.
And that nerve is still
That's how he got elected.
That nerve is still raw.
No, it's called COVID. If
Nothing's
COVID
been.
happen, he's
If anything, the nerve is even rawer because the really hardworking Americans who tended to be part of Trump's base are really pissed off now that there's been this attempt at socialism in America, and they have to wait longer at a restaurant than they've ever had to wait. They have to pay more for a gallon of gas. So the vestiges of socialism have left a ton of just 70 million or so. It's left their nerves even more raw than they were before. That's problematic.
They're vulnerable. They're vulnerable to being led right into an authoritarian trap. I'll give you a great quote. Rise up against the unrest. I'll make the trains run on time. We'll start there. Who said that?
Mussolini.
Correct. Why? Because things were so bad that the people were willing to go along with it, and they walked right into the authoritarian
All right, I have a
So
question.
you're basically saying that Mussolini, we're ripe for a Mussolini here.
I have a question for
No,
Patrick.
Is it ironic that Trump always gets compared to Mussolini with his
no,
shin?
I didn't compare
I
Trump
have
to
a-
Mussolini.
I
I'm
have a
pointing
question
out
for
that what
Patrick.
she just said is absolutely correct. When there's unrest and there's people that have these stifled frustrations and it's broad-based, they are ripe to follow the wrong guy.
Now, who do you
wait,
think
wait.
is frustrated?
Hold on. Hello.
We were just talking about wealth and inequality. You paying
So
attention
who's
for the last 5
frustrated?
minutes?
You're saying that it's only on the right?
I'm saying people who are working hard and
you
seeing
have a
people
colorful
get
chart that you
paid
could-
to not work are really pissing off the hard workers. I have a question.
Thank you.
We've got military background here sitting across from me, right?
Yes, ma'am.
What happens to countries when states eventually fail to lead? I'm talking about entire states. What happens to a country?
What happens?
You talk about individual states like Texas or nation
no,
states?
No, no,
Nations.
she's talking about nations.
What happens to nations
There's a fall?
where the politicians fail? Who rises?
People.
No. What type of leaders rise?
Tell me.
The generals,
Okay.
the military.
Okay.
That's where this country could be headed.
You're saying like militia? Like
I'm
you're
saying military ruling the country. If we keep having, remember, we talked about it an hour and a half ago. The Republicans and the Democrats are both, whenever they're in office, whenever they're both in leadership, spending like drunken sailors. We've talked about this. So what happens one day when, and if possibly, Americans feel like they're not represented at all? I mean, right now, I've never seen an administration as vulnerable as the Biden administration is today because, again, they're paralyzed. They can't do anything. But the people who run our military, they're doers. They're not sayers. And so if the...
So is that a concern of yours, or are you excited about that?
I think that would be fairly concerning for the United States.
Tell me why.
To be a military state?
What happens
What
then?
are we like, Brazil, 1981? I mean...
Okay. So why do you think that would even happen here, though?
Because Americans are losing faith in the reason that independent voters are growing as a proportion of the electorate is because there's an increasing proportion who feel like they're not represented by anybody at all. And
Okay.
you make yourself vulnerable to becoming an authoritarian state, which is what started this whole discussion. But what do authoritarian states look like? The leaders tend to be militaristic dictators types, not wishy-washy Joe Biden, who can't get anything done.
That's how Chavez got power in Venezuela.
That's
back in the day.
exactly how Chavez rose. I lived in Venezuela, and I saw it right before, and that's exactly how Hugo Chavez rose to power.
I'll make the trains run
Are
on
you
time.
basically saying that a general is going to run for the presidency
saying-
and win, or are you saying that the military is going to take over?
Thank you. That's what
authoritarian wise.
I'm saying that.
Now, do you actually
we're
believe
rendering
that, or
ourselves
are you
vulnerable
just
to this
giving
if we
a?
don't legislate for the people? You mentioned three things, right? The deficit needs to come down, right? Interest rates need to come up.
Right.
What was your third?
And that third is money supply. You got to control the money supply.
Okay,
And
all these
we're-
things. Are we going in the right direction on any of it? Okay, money supply is coming down because we can't legislate until after the midterms when then the Republicans are going to start
No,
spending
the
money on
money
what they
supply
want.
has had a temporary moderation. If you extend that back 18 months, it's grown. So we are redlining with certain moments of moderation. We're redlining
The
all
growth
three.
of the money supply has come way off. You have to wait until after the midterms, and then the Republicans will spend on what they
No,
want to
I'm agreeing,
spend on.
Danielle, I'm agreeing with you. It's come off. It's moderated in the most
But
recent months.
I'm asking somebody
But
who
when you go back,
served in the military. You pay attention to your leaders if they're strong leaders. If our country can't find any strong leaders, they're going to pay attention to the people who are strong and running our military. I'm just talking about the possible end game. You brought up the word Patrick authoritarian. You played the video. The guy from China says that we're vulnerable.
Yeah, but the point he made that stuck with me is the reason why Trump couldn't be an authoritative guy is because you need the systems to support it, right? So what I wish he would have asked, the question I would ask him, tell me what's the system? What is the system? Is the media part of the system? Is it educational system is part of the system?
Military,
is conduct?
FBI,
I want to know
CIA,
that, right?
media,
Okay, fine. But
state.
and then what I'm saying to you is that'll never happen on the right. Here's why. Let me explain. So yesterday we're having this conversation together. Yesterday we're
By
having
the way, we agree on that.
Okay, so let me explain to you why. Here's how this works. So here's how this works. You know how two kids are playing, and they're using the toys. Okay, they got their favorite toys sitting there, and they like a lot of the same toys. So Adam says, Adam, you go first. Pick your first toy. So knowing Adam, he takes a little doll, the cat doll, whatever. He takes that doll. I say, okay, that's your doll.
G.I. Joe,
All right.
Pat.
Then it's my turn. I take that little car, whatever the car is. Then he takes his own doll, and then we're going to go, right? Okay. So the left and the right are sitting in a room together right across from each other. They're going to say, okay, left, you go first. Okay? Left goes first. You know what? We're going to take the educational system, and we're going to influence that. Shit, that's big. Okay, we'll take the church. Okay, cool. Most of the church is conservative. Fine. What are you going to take next? We're going to take mainstream media. Damn, I should have taken that first. Damn, that's powerful. Okay, we'll take the military. Okay, cool. You got military. Okay, we're going to take, virtual government, social media, all in Silicon Valley, and they're going to be on the left. We're going to control that. Freaking A, I should have thought of that. Let me see okay, we'll take a lot of the crypto community because a lot of the crypto community, they're libertarian. So it's center-right, but it's on the right. Fine, we'll take crypto. Yeah, we'll give you that. It's only 7%. It's not a big deal. They're going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Now you look at the left, what they got. They're stacked with things that they got. Stacked. Union, left, stacked with what things they got there. So now the right is in there saying, we kind of screwed up. What are we going to do now? Okay. So in this instance, the reason why I say the right cannot be authoritative is because the system doesn't back up the right. The only person that can be authoritative is somebody from the left because they have majority of the system. And if somebody strategically from their left truly wants to be authoritative in America, what do you got to do? Here's what you got to do. Strategically.
You got to make the people sheeple.
First thing you got to do is change the tax code for churches. That's what you got to do. So if a pastor from stage says something that is out of line, you got to remove their tax code. You can no longer take money, and that becomes, okay, if you're going to go that direction, that's how you got to do them. Number two, the system on how military is being indoctrinated, you need more people like Milley, who had CRT, who had all this other stuff and soften up the military. That's the strategic move you got to do. That's what you got to do. Number three, what do you do with crypto? What you do with crypto is regulate the shit out of it, so making those people disappear because they're starting to become a pain in the ass because some of these guys actually have money. We don't like libertarians being rich because they already don't give a shit and they want to be left alone. And now they're the type of people that are going to say, screw you, you can't tell me what to do because I'm a damn libertarian, and these crypto people are libertarian. If the left wants to truly be an authoritative state, those three organizations you got to go take out. Now, if the right wants to create that freedom for everybody to choose, you got to kind of start producing some universities. You got to kind of start educating people. You got to kind of start talking about how great capitalism is. You got to start selling the dream. You got to be attractive. You got to get that younger audience. You got to get the people that are telling the story the right way. And then some people are going to sit there and say, you know what, this is kind of starting to make sense to me. So I don't.
Yeah, I mean, who on the left is coming out and saying teachers' unions destroyed jobs, teachers' unions destroyed families, teachers' unions prevented mothers from being able to rejoin the workforce? Yeah. Who's going to come out and say that?
Yeah, of course they're not going to say that. And to me, the other day I made a comment about teachers. People flipped out. I said, look, there's about 40% of teachers should be fired because they flat out suck. There's a lot of
they're
teachers
not accountable.
Not only are they not accountable, they don't like their jobs.
They don't care.
Listen,
you're
let
low,
me tell
dude.
you.
They don't like kids.
Let me put it to you this way. If I ever was a front desk clerk, you should fire me because I'm probably not going to be a good front desk clerk. If I ever was a front desk clerk. You're
a bit ADHD.
Yeah, I'm not going to be a good front desk clerk, right? If I was a waiter, you should fire me because I'd probably be asking you to learn a lot more about you, and I'm going to forget the fact that you wanted drinks and your burger is going to come with onions even though you said no onions. I'm gonna forget about it on the way back, and you're gonna be like, freaking A, how many
I think
times?
you'd remember the onion thing.
Yeah,
Pat.
yeah.
Let's not.
Matter
go,
of fact, if
let's
you
not go that
if you
extreme.
ask for onions, I
You
wouldn't
ain't
bring
getting
it.
onions, buddy.
Our restaurant would have
On
onions.
86 the onions, the whole restaurant.
The point is, there's a lot of bad teachers out there that should get fired.
Completely
they should
agree.
not be teaching today.
And that's what we learned during COVID.
So if you enjoyed this little short segment from the podcast that we did, here's another short segment to watch. Or if you want to see the entire podcast, click over here. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.